BBC News with Sue Montgomery. In Ukraine, a complex operation to evacuate civilians from a steelworks in Mariupol is continuing, involving both the United Nations and Red Cross. So far, at least 80 people have been taken away from the plant, which is besieged by Russian forces. In his latest video address, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said some of these should reach a Ukrainian-controlled city on Monday.
Given all the complexities of the process, the first evacuees will arrive in Zaporizhia tomorrow morning. Hopefully this doesn't fail. Our team will meet them there. I hope that tomorrow all the necessary conditions will be met to continue the evacuation of people from Mariupol.
In the latest video released by Russia's Ministry of Defense, people are shown being bused to a camp in Russian-controlled territory east of Mariupol. Danny Eberhard reports.
Filmed footage shows evacuees, women and children, but also men, walking in spring sunshine, carrying bags and suitcases. Two young women even had dachshunds on leads. It was a stark contrast with their life of recent weeks, sheltering in bunkers. One woman spoke of the terrors of the shelling, thinking her heart would stop. The evacuees, who appeared relatively healthy despite their ordeal, were bused to a camp east of Mariupol in the direction of Russia. Moscow says those who wanted to head for Ukrainian-controlled territory were handed over to UN and Red Cross representatives.
Russian forces are maintaining their intense bombardment of Ukrainian positions in the east of the country. In Donetsk, the Ukrainian governor said 4 civilians were among the casualties in the shelling of a town close to Izium, where there's been heavy fighting. People have been advised to remain indoors in parts of the Kharkiv region, while the governor of Luhansk again told civilians to leave while they still could. In other news, the president of Tunisia, Kais Saied, has announced plans to rewrite his country's constitution. Mr Saied, who's dissolved government and parliament, said a committee would be established to redraft the existing framework and would conclude its work within days. Here's Sebastian Usher.
In a televised speech to mark Eid al-Fitr, President Saied said the constitution that will be drafted will be for what he called a new republic and will be put as scheduled to a referendum in 3 months. He said the national dialogue would be open to those whom he described as having genuinely engaged in what he called the national correction movement, but not to those he accused of lacking patriotism and abusing the people. Many inside and outside Tunisia continue to be concerned at what they see as the president's growing authoritarianism since he seized full executive powers last July.
BBC News. The head of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, has called on the military rulers of Burkina Faso, Guinea and Mali to hand power back to civilians as soon as possible. Mr Guterres was speaking in Senegal, where he urged international financial institutions to adopt debt relief measures for African countries to help their economies recover. The first international tourists have arrived in New Zealand after the removal of coronavirus measures, which all but closed the country's borders for more than 2 years. The first Northern Hemisphere visitors arrived in Auckland on flights from the United States. People from more than 60 countries are now able to visit. The Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has joined thousands of his supporters in the capital, Brasilia, for a demonstration he says was in defence of the Constitution. It follows the president's controversial decision to pardon one of his allies in Congress, who had been sentenced to jail by the Supreme Court for inciting violence. Regine Zilberberg, the French singer and impresario, credited with inventing the modern discotheque, has died at the age of 92. Regine, as she was always known, went on to build a nightclub empire that spanned the globe. Hugh Schofield looks back at her legacy.
It was in 1953 at the Whiskey A Go-Go Club just behind the Palais Royal in Paris that Regine said that she had her inspiration. Regine claimed to be the first person to install 2 turntables. She personally spanned the records and the music never stopped. Her empire dwindled as tastes changed and the franchises disappeared. But she never lost her love for showbiz. Well into her 80s, she was planning more ventures, more ways of getting people to dance.
Hugh Schofield reporting. BBC News.